The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Hello and welcome to the Big H Podcast. My name is Mike Heise, and with me today is the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction at the Hilton Central School District, Kristen Paolini.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to get you here. I know it's your summertime, but you were telling me earlier it's sometimes a time where you get a lot done as well.
Yeah, a little slower.
A little
A
slower.
little slower in the summer. It's nice.
But I've seen you work in the district. You don't do anything slow. You're always at a good pace.
I have two speeds, 100 and 0. There's no in between.
So at home you get the 0 speed or?
Only when I go to bed.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise I'm always finding something to do.
Are you one of those early to bed, early to risers?
Yep.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
And are you a believer in coffee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all times, all types.
Now, I got tons of questions. Now, as a mom, do you make your children that same way? Like, let's get up and go, like that type of thing?
I don't know that we made them that way, but our oldest are boys, and they were busy and early risers from the get-go. And if we kept them up later, they would just get up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So we just naturally got into that early to bed, early to rise. And they've all kind of fallen into that pattern for the most part. So, yeah, so we're all like that.
And we'll get into your family in a little bit because you have a really unique family situation that I found fascinating, and how you negotiated being a working mom and 2 sets of twins. I just find it fascinating. For those of us that don't know, what does a superintendent for instruction, that type of job, what's the job description encapsulate?
Sure. So ultimately, you're responsible for everything that has to do with curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So everything that we teach and learn, the resources that we use, the programs that we offer, that encompasses special education, the learning support team, so any of the support services. I work directly with a handful of directors, Karen Spillman, who's our director of teaching and learning, and Julie Ford Jones, our director of special education, our 2 special education specialists, and Liz Thornton, who's our director of student services. So that kind of makes up the instruction office with Lori and Claudia as well, keeping us in line. And, we do everything from writing curriculum like we're doing right now over the summer, offering professional development. We host superintendent's conference days, make sure we're in compliance with New York State regulations, do a lot of things with title funds. So there's always something different to do in this office. I don't do anything with business except work with Adam and follow his directions. And human resources and I get to work together when we're hiring, teachers and administrators. But everything with teaching and learning, that kind of falls in this office. So all the good stuff.
It's a lot that covers so much of what you just said, and of education. And what's the driving force behind your job?
So
student learning, I get, but like for you.
So there's a picture over there in my office. You probably can't see it right now, but there's a picture of about 320 seniors. I was an assistant principal when I first became an administrator, and those are some of the most wonderful human beings you're ever going to meet. That class I got to work with from the time they came in as freshmen until they graduated. And they all have their own stories, and they all have their own successes and their own struggles. And so I keep that picture there to remind me that we have 4,200 students here in the district too, who are all unique, and they're all working towards things, and they're all learning, and they're all doing it in different ways, and they're all great people too. And so I always keep that as a reminder that everything we do, beginning, middle, and end, comes down to how do we help students develop the best sense of self as intellectuals, as people, as parts of a community. So that's the driving force behind everything, even though some of it seems adult heavy at times, because I primarily work directly with adults. It's all in service of the students and their families.
And talking to friends of mine that have gone into administration, and sometimes I always ask them, like, how do you maintain that connection with students? Because when you get into the dark side, as some of us may call
I
it,
don't know what you're talking about.
how do you maintain that connection with colleagues, teachers, colleagues, and students still?
Yeah, it's more challenging to maintain that connection with students, to be frank. My biggest goal is to always get into classrooms or to be in the buildings and in the hallways. And, I have a goal of children stop saying, who are you? Now, I like that from a safety perspective, right? Because they should be asking, do you have a badge? Should I be talking to you? So that's a good thing. But, my goal would be that I come in and they're like, oh, she's back. And so that's always the way I try to stay connected, is to be in the buildings and to be, in classrooms when I can be, and trying to make that a dedicated time in my calendar, because it can get pretty full with meetings. And so that's the best way really to stay connected. And then as far as teachers, working with like our program coordinators, working directly with our grade level leaders, and having kind of that internal teacher leader structure helps me to stay connected as well. Going to department meetings or meeting with a grade level. Those are the ways I try to stay connected as much as possible.
And I don't know if this was, I think when you came on board, you also took over doing observations of second year teachers. Mm-hmm. And I would think, explain that, how it helps you with the new teacher and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that was something that I wanted to do for two reasons. One, if ultimately I was responsible for the teacher evaluation system, I should be participating in it. So I wanted to know, every district has to follow an APPR, but everyone does it differently. So I knew I had to be in the work to understand the work. That was part of it. And then second year teachers, I don't think an ASI should go and do a formal observation on a first year teacher. Like, welcome. I'm going to come watch everything you do in your room. So I wait until they've been here for a year. And then by that chance, I have an opportunity. I also wanted to make sure that when I was working in the evaluation system, I'd have the opportunity for the pre-observation meeting, the observation, and the post. So we could have that one-to-one conversation about instruction. And so that's where I settled on, well, I'll do one observation for all of the second year teachers. So that's great because that's on the calendar. It's scheduled. I won't miss those no matter what. So I always know I'm going to be in those, anywhere from 25 to 30 classrooms a year, and then try to do a lot of other informal visits throughout the year as well. But it helped me really quickly get a good handle on what we believe about instruction in the district, what some of our challenges might be with the curriculum, what things teachers need to be able to do that better if they're or differently. So that's been a really, really helpful. It's like one of my favorite parts of my job. I love doing that.
Well, you've also come into classrooms, me being one of them, and I you come in and you don't end up even really talking to me. You just talk to the kids.
I do like to talk to the kids. No offense. I like you too.
No, the one time you came in this year was after lunch, and I was doing a read aloud, and I don't even think you knew the book, but you were eliciting responses, and you got into a conversation with this one student of mine who's not very engaging, but boy, did you get her to just come out. And it was nice to see that, because it's nice to see others do it.
Yeah. So and that's the good stuff too. Yeah. When you get to talk to kids about books, that's my favorite part. Right. Because I was an English teacher. So, I do work with adults all day long, but I got into this business to work with students. So it is kind of an awkward situation to be in when you don't get to work with the kids as much. So typically when I pop into classrooms, I'm usually saying, tell me what you're learning, or what are you guys working on today, or what are you doing tomorrow? That's usually when they say to me, who are you?
And you also have a presence. I have to say that too. Making sure that
it's the suits. I'm not wearing one today, but it must be the suit. Sneakers? Yeah, I know. I did move to sneakers because I'm getting a little older, Mike.
Well, yeah, you got to be comfortable. Feet. You talked a little bit about your education. You went to St. Bonaventure.
I did.
Talk a little bit about your education at St. Bonaventure and your experience there with leadership and jobs you did there.
Sure. So I went to St. Bonaventure, full disclosure, because I could make their softball team. And that's why I chose the school. And
Wait, you did play softball there?
I did, just for my first year.
Okay.
I did. And it was a great experience, and I'm glad that I did it. But it was, it's a full-time job. And I looked around and my friends were, running tours and joining this club and, playing intramurals. I'm like, well, that all looks like a lot of fun. So I played for my first year, and then I retired after that. But that's what drew me to Bonaventure in the first place. And they have a phenomenal school of education. Mm-hmm. And it was intense. So it was really a great experience. We had as early as sophomore year, there was a group of us, probably 25 of us or so, that were secondary education majors. Well, I was an English major, but we were all pursuing our certification in secondary education. And we used to get on a bus and drive to Keene, Pennsylvania. And we were in a building, a high school or a middle school, 2 full days a week right out of the gate in sophomore year. So we had a good taste early on if it was going to be for us or not. And it was great. And then we moved into some practicums and then some student teaching. So while I was there, small class sizes, you could never miss a class or be late because they would know. We had, friars taught our classes. That was kind of a new experience for me. I thought that was really cool. Just a super tight knit community. And so I always joke, and we've got Mallory going to Bonaventure. So every time I see her, I just give her a go Bonas shout. I tell her I bleed brown and you will too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a great experience. And, we go back there often. I still have a number of good friends. I think everyone in my house, junior and senior year, I think all but 2 of us were education majors. So, and most of us are all still employed in the education field.
And didn't you tell me earlier on that you were also you did tour guides and stuff for?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was all in. Yeah. I was a tour guide. So if you needed a tour on a Saturday morning, I was there. I planned orientation. So summer orientation, you would go down for like 2 or 3 weeks, and groups of incoming freshmen would come through for 2 days at a time. And that was an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Is that where you met your husband, or?
No,
Post-Bonnie's?
we met post Bonnie's.
Okay.
Yeah, shortly after I graduated. Mm-hmm. He was a Hamilton guy.
The Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. I won't hold that against him, though.
You're also Greece Athena graduate, and you did your master's work at Brockport?
I did. Yep. So I was teaching full time at Gates, and then I did my master's, whatever I could afford at the time. So sometimes 2 classes, sometimes 1 class, and it took me a couple years, and just did that in the evenings and over the summers. And I think it was 2005, maybe. I got my master's degree. Mm-hmm.
How was that, taking class and teaching at the same time?
I think it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I've done some hard things. But one of the things I'll often talk to second year teachers about when we're having that post-observation meeting is, I think being a new teacher and driving to Brockport and taking classes in the evening and trying to balance lesson planning, grading, learning new curriculum, and doing your grad classes all at once, when most of us teachers were high achievers. So we want to get good grades in our classes too. I think it's one of the hardest things I ever did. I remember driving back from Brockport at 10 o'clock at night and being like, stay awake, just stay awake. It's probably not safe. And now they do a lot of their classes online, so that's probably safer for the driving. But this was a long time ago.
Well, and speaking of online, you got your administrative certificate from Canisius College.
I did.
You did that work online?
I did, online before Zoom was a thing. Yeah.
And what status of life were you in at that time in terms of motherhood? And didn't you tell me?
Yeah. So my boys are twins, and they were 4 at the time. And they were very busy little boys and required a lot of energy and effort. And so the only local program was at Brockport, and it was all night Friday night and then all day and night and evening Saturdays. And I really wanted to stay married and didn't know if that was going to happen if I was away at school. So I pursued a couple options. Canisius used to have a satellite program here, and they had just moved into an online program, and I got accepted into that. And it was a great experience because all your work was 100% published to the entire class. So you really had to, if you wanted to look smart or, look like you knew what you were doing or belonged there, everybody in the class is going to see every paper you wrote and every discussion board you had. So, it was easier from a management perspective, but a little intimidating because if you're in a class and you don't understand, you can just kind of be quiet, but you can't do that in this particular type of a setting. So it was good. Pushed me.
Sure. And then you got a job at Gates, right? And how long did you teach middle school English or high school English?
High school English from 2002 till 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you like that?
I loved it. I thought I was always going to be a teacher. I really fancied myself, Dead Poet Society, standing on the table, inspiring all the kids. I thought that was going to be me until I retired. And then things just happened as they did.
What changed? How did you become that teacher leader that, you know what I mean?
So I think early on, I took a lot of roles. In my second year, the principal came to me and said, we're going to try this new course and we want you to co-teach it with a literacy specialist. And so I said, oh, okay. And then it became, could you be on this committee? Okay. And then I started teaching some professional development. And then I sought some committee opportunities. And I got a chance to work with our director of staff development to run the teacher mentor program. So I started to get into a lot of those things just naturally because I love talking about curriculum instruction and assessment. And when I found others that did, I was like, these are my people. So, and then I think I noticed I started to become critical of administrators. And I was like, well, they should have this and they should have that. And I didn't like that about myself. So I said, either be quiet and keep it to yourself, or if you think you can do it better, then you should go do it. And so I was like, well, then I guess I'll try to become an administrator.
Yeah. When in those early years, when you were, head of departments or teacher leader or whatever, tell me of a time maybe that was challenging for you in a lead position and how you overcame it.
It was actually when I was in my admin program, one of the assistant principals had to go out for about 6 weeks for back surgery. And they asked if I would sub for the assistant principal, which was great because I got internship hours. So it was a huge help to me. But trying to become an administrator in your own building, there are ways that you can run your classroom, but you can't run a whole school. Or a whole grade level. I wasn't running the whole school, but a whole grade level. And so I think navigating that with my peers was challenging because they, had some critiques about, well, you would never let that happen in your classroom. And, it's different. I have relationships with students in my classroom. We've known each other for a period of time. The rules are already established. Well, the interaction you're judging was in the hallway with a person I didn't know. And so that's how I handled it. So just having some conversations about that sometimes when some teachers were looking for accountability, accountability for students doesn't always have to look harsh. You can get to a means where they're following the boundaries they're supposed to follow, but you can do it in a way that involves the student and involves you and maintains everybody's dignity. And I think sometimes some of the criticisms I was getting was, I did what I had to do to diffuse it in the hallway. And then we came into the office and had the hard conversation when it was, just me and another staff member and the student so that was some stuff. And I had to navigate some of those conversations, just explain, it might not look like the student's going to be held accountable, but sometimes that just presents itself in different ways. So that was a kind of a challenge I had to navigate a little bit in the beginning.
Well, I'm just thinking, you're making me think about what I do. And sometimes I bite maybe I go too hard at a kid rather than diffuse and deflect and discuss it later, which kind of sounds like you did.
Yeah. And I think you get a lot. Remember, you're working with students who their prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet. That self-management skill, that's not coming into full fruition until you're in your mid-20s. And so I think a lot of times just asking a question like, what's going on? Instead of coming in and saying, cut it out. What's going on disarms someone, and you come at it like you're concerned. And so if I see two students who are maybe squabbling, I might come over and say, everything okay? What's happening? And then usually that brings the situation down. And then you can come in and have a good conversation about what happened, what should we have done, what could we do differently? And then, then you start to build that rapport with students. And I've always found that more effective in the long run.
I like that. Thought what you said, you made a quote in the beginning about what you see may not be, I don't know what you said, but it was a really good quote. So you began your teaching career at Gates, and then when did you go to, I believe, Spencerport, and you became is that true?
Yes.
Their director of K-12 curriculum?
No, I went from the classroom. I left the classroom at the end of the 2012 school year. When my daughters were born, I went out on maternity leave. And then while on maternity leave, I applied and interviewed to be an AP in Spencerport. Okay. So I was an assistant principal for 5 years at the high school level first.
Okay.
Then I moved over after 5 years to the director of curriculum position. Okay. And I was there for 5 years. So I was in Spencerport for 10, but 5 as an AP and 5 as a director.
What did you learn as an AP that helped you as a director of curriculum?
I think one of the biggest learning curves for me as an administrator was that when I was working with adults, I had maybe a list of priorities of things that I knew from a global perspective. This had to be done first, then this, then this, then this. But when I would work with teachers, when they came in and had a concern or needed something, it was first on their list. And so when the first on their list didn't match the first on my list, or it was farther down, sometimes that was difficult for people to understand. And so what I learned was to have a lot of open and honest conversations and to help broaden perspective when possible. And that really helped me as a director, because with each step in administration, your scope of responsibility gets bigger. But like when I was in the classroom, and I made a lot of phone calls to my former APs when I became an AP, and I started like this: "Hey, so-and-so, I'm really sorry that I used to XYZ." And so I think just trying to help people understand kind of where certain things might fit into a bigger picture, and that what they're bringing to you is still really important. And here's how I'm going to plan to address that, but I might not be able to address it tomorrow.
Okay.
So that was one of the things, I think, working with adults and working with peers. That was one of the biggest things I learned. And the other biggest thing I learned, and I learned it in kind of a hard way, was you have to have the relationships first. I'm a worker. So like, let's get to business. You walk in, you have a problem, let's solve it. Let's, work on XYZ. And I realized that a lot of people, they're fine with that once they know you're a good person. And I needed to spend more time making sure people knew that I cared about them and cared about the building and the students before getting right down to work. And so I know that seems silly because it's, human, but those are some of the biggest things I learned, how incredibly important that relationship is first before you move any sort of work.
So you've been here since 2022. How did you establish that relationship early in your career here at Hilton?
So I have to give credit to my children. So I have 4 children in the district. Andrew and Barrett just graduated, and my daughters are going into 8th grade. And I think that helped a great deal, because when Barb Suresh, who was my predecessor, was bringing me around the high school to meet people, I got a lot of, "Oh, you're Andrew's mom," or, "Oh, you're Barrett's mom." And so I think that kind of helped. I knew a lot of teachers from being mom, and that, I mean, there's no more human place to be than when you're in mom mode. And if you see me in the grocery store, you'll know what I mean by that, because I'll be in a ball cap. So I think that really helped. And then just having learned that lesson early on in my admin career, kind of the hard way. I mean, I had somebody sit me down with a really harsh conversation about, some people would, jump in front of a train for you, and others are terrified. and I don't understand how that happens. And I had built relationships with some and not with others, so I knew the importance of that. So that became a priority in the beginning. So the first year I just observed, and I kept up all the work that was happening, and just really wanted to learn and understand, because even though we're in the same business in Hilton that we were in Spencerport and that I was in Gates, every district has its own culture, has its own ways, has its own history. So I really spent that first year trying to be as quiet of an observer and kind of a collector of information, and starting to establish relationships with people.
So you knew Hilton as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
What did you glean from Hilton as a parent in terms of what the district offered? What you could see as its core values. And maybe, earlier you said you sometimes were critical of administrators, or some things that maybe you saw, like, if I ever got into that role, maybe I would attack that.
Yeah. So the latter part, no, it hadn't really occurred to me. No, what drew me, no, not necessarily. No, what drew me to the district, quite frankly, was.
So everything was great in Hilton when you saw it as a parent? That's great.
I mean, things went very well for my children.
Right.
And so what I was really drawn to, and this is going to sound crazy as an educator, but
Sports.
No, everybody loves kids here. And so every adult I dealt with, whether I was there because I was called in for a parent-teacher conference for someone who was being too funny in class over and over again, or somebody that was struggling with some perfectionism or whatever, everybody was always had my children's best interests at heart. And sometimes I did have to have a conversation one time with a teacher. And I said, "Would you stop being so nice to said child? Because I think they're working the system." But when that's the problem, that we're being too nice, I mean, that's a wonderful thing. And so I knew that student-centered education was on a priority for the teaching staff here. And so that really drew me here. And there was something about living and working in the same community that I just thought was great, you know? So when you go to a sporting event, oh, those are all my son's friends on that team, or you go to the musical and your kid's like, well, I'll come because kids in my class, their older sisters in the musical. And so it's been fun to have kind of that, all the worlds in one place. It's been really, really cool. So yeah, that's what really drew me here.
Well, it's interesting because I have you here because you're a teacher, an administrator, and a parent. I want you to speak to a broad question. Let's say a parent they feel like maybe their child isn't being, I don't know, taught right or getting a raw deal in class. What is the best way that a parent can approach that situation?
So the first thing to do is to speak directly to the teacher. Well, it also depends on the age of the child. So I would really say for me as a parent, depending on what your children can handle, I mean, 5th, 6th grade and up, the best thing is for the child to try to talk to the teacher first and try to coach them through that. And then it would be for the parent to have a conversation with the teacher. And I would say that most time, and especially if you can have it on the phone, you know, or in person, and it's not something you're trying to do over email, I think those 95% of your problems are usually addressed in that kind of live conversation. And then if that's still not working, then it's a conversation to whether it's the assistant principal or the principal in the building, to kind of go there. I'm going to knock on wood here, but it's rare that a concern about instruction really comes all the way to me. Sometimes it will be a principal that might give me a call and say, hey, can we just talk through this together? And then they're calling the parent back. But, you know, typically that's, I think, the most effective chain of command, if you will.
Makes a lot of sense. Again, we keep brushing over your kids. We're going to get to them in a little bit. How has AI affected education?
It has, and it will continue to do so. You know, I'll be frank, I use it quite a bit. I like Microsoft Copilot when I can't get the right tone of my email, and, you know, I'll take out all the people's names or whatever. And, you know, I'll put that into Copilot and say, make this sound more clear, or make this sound nicer than it does right now, less matter of fact. And it's a huge time saver. You know, when you can't think about that first right line to put in something, it helps to generate that. You know, so I think from a efficiency standpoint, it makes things a lot more efficient. We purchased Magic School for teachers this year. And I think the more individuals learn how to use the tools that are in Magic School, the more efficiencies that's going to create some of that time saving. The internet's a lovely thing. And it was just getting on its feet when I started teaching, but the fact that I could Google or could research, you know, a couple different ways to do something with To Kill a Mockingbird. But then I got to find, I don't like this part of it. I don't like that part of it when you're searching. But when you use AI, I want this, and it needs to have these 3 qualities. And you're telling that generative AI what to produce for you. And what you get back is quicker and way closer to what you had intended. So from a planning standpoint, or, you know, a resource curation standpoint for teachers, it really should create much more efficiency, which then might allow us to do things like the differentiation that can become so cumbersome at times because of the different needs of your learners. It's going to become more manageable. And then the student use of AI is probably more so your question. Right. And the reality is it will be a part of their lives when they take on careers. And so much like, you know, we teach them how to use calculators responsibly. Sometimes it's okay to have one. Sometimes it's not. You know, that's what we're working on with AI. And our instructional techs here in the district, working with our director of technology, Christy Schaefer, have spent the year creating a guidance document for the district that they'll be rolling out next year, and get some more feedback on that from some teacher leaders in the fall. But a little preview is it includes something like a stoplight system for the use of AI. And if individuals have taken a certain professional development course, Muggle to Magical, which is around AI usage, they can do a pilot next year of the Magic Student. And so we're trying to use here's a school appropriate, EdLaw 2D compliant, safe place that doesn't contribute to a large language model for students to use AI. Teachers turn on only the tools they want kids to have. They set up the room. So we're starting to teach them ways to use AI on small scales first. And I think if we work on here are the acceptable ways to use it and start to coach into that. Now, I'd be foolish to think we're not a little late to the game in the sense that ChatGPT dropped a couple of years ago. And so I know students have been trying to use that. Now there's AI in their Snapchat app on their phone and other places as well. But I think it really comes back down to that, teaching the academic honesty, when you use it, what you use it for, when it's your work, when it's not. And having those open and honest conversations with kids and letting them know when they can and when they can't. And I think also creating assessments and delivering them in the classroom when you can manage the setting is another way to really help with that as well. Did I answer your question?
That's an amazing answer, actually. Yeah, very detailed. And
I said I was going to be brief in the beginning.
I like it that you're going to bring in the students into the fold and give them basically coursework and how to use it appropriately. I guess that leads me to my next question. How has education changed from when you were a kid, college, to now that you're an administrator? That's a very broad question, but
yeah, it's interesting. I think it goes in cycles. And any of us who've been in education for, I say, more than 20 years, you've seen the pendulum go back and go forth. And I think what's changed is the desire for more student agency and engagement. And maybe when I was a student, it was, I teach, you learn. I'm going to say it, therefore it's been taught, therefore you should have learned it. And I don't think we're there anymore. I think we're much more in an age of wanting to make sure students engage. We know a lot more about formative assessment and how to check in and know when students, not wait until that unit test to realize, oh, Kristen really didn't understand polynomials. But having those formative assessments along the way to say, oh, she's stuck here, and let's make sure we know that, we can fix that, we can, work on that. So I think that partnership with students to be more agents of their own learning, the desire for true engagement and not just compliance, those I think have been some of the biggest shifts. Moving to more concept-based learning, the reality is much of the facts and recall that I was being taught when I was young existed because I didn't have Siri, Google, Alexa. I mean, I was in the card catalog in high school.
Yep.
So I think we have to be mindful of our, as teachers, they don't need us for the dispensation of facts any longer, but they need us to help them see the connections to those things. So here's some of the facts about World War II, but here's the cause, and here was the contributors, and that was the catalyst. And then how could you see all of that same game plan happen in another setting or in a different country? And so that's our job, is to help them do those higher level thinking tasks, that synthesis, that causal analysis, because they can go get their facts anywhere.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest challenge and shift, because we are now teaching in a way that we weren't taught.
Yes. I agree 100%.
It's a challenge. I'm not going to say it's easy. Yeah. But it's if you lined up a whole bunch of employers from different industries and sectors, they would tell you what they need from students is resilience. They need problem solving. They need creative solutions to things. And all the facts and things, they'll teach them that, but they need the interpersonal skills. And so it's interesting how things have shifted and what employers are looking for.
What do you think the role of phones is taking on education? I mean, next year, I believe Hilton is going to go through the directive of the state.
Yep.
The phones are away during the day and everything. How do you think that's going to be managed, and how do you think the kids are going to deal with that?
I think initially, like any sort of a change, there's going to be some bumps in the road. But, from a philosophical standpoint, I mean, the data tells you, from 2012, when smartphones became mainstream in teenagers' hands, you can see a direct correlation to a decline in mental health, a rise in anxiety and depression. There's no secret that though the phones, social media, and what that can do has been detrimental to this generation, this youth, right? And the hard part is it came into the scene unfettered. There's no government regulation around social media the way there is around like alcohol or cigarettes. And so I think the hard part is we let it get too far as a society, and now we realize the detriment, and now we've got to rein it back. Right. And so that's going to be part of the challenge, is that you do have some true addiction to this technology, and we're going to take that substance, if you will, away when students have to put it away. Now, in the long term, we know that's good for their bodies, their minds. But I think just the practice in the beginning will be tough. But once you're without it, I I truly believe you will be able to be more focused. Students will be able to be more focused. I'm looking forward to some more of that interaction right now. And have you read The Anxious Generation?
No.
Oh, you got to put it on your list. I did the audiobook. I'm not going to lie. I listened to it. It's about 10 hours. But it tells a lot about the way we use phones as like a pacifier. So you're uncomfortable because now you're waiting in a long line and you don't really know where to look. And so you pull out the phone and you look at it. And so now what I've done is I've avoided any sort of social interaction, which, I'm hoping at 45, I've got enough skills to be able to do that. But if I'm 12 or 13 or 14 and I haven't learned how to get through some of those angsty moments, I don't build my resilience for being uncomfortable. And I think that right now, like that's what's happening in our cafeterias or our hallways, where instead of having to have some conversation, I get a slight bit uncomfortable and I pull out the phone, and we all do it. I do it too.
I see it every day at stores and wherever you go, restaurants.
Sure. But students are being stolen of those opportunities to develop, and I think we're going to be giving them back those opportunities by having those phones away. I'm hoping it's going to feel like a relief, that I'm not tied to the pings and the buzzing and whatever someone might be saying. I'm hoping that it will. I firmly believe that once we get through the initial stages, I think it's going to be a better school year.
How old were your kids before you gave them phones? Did you wait till middle school or?
Oh, we really tried to wait all the way to high school.
Okay.
We really did. And it ended up, so we even bought the boys, they'll be so embarrassed. We bought them a flip phone. And it was a family flip phone in 7th grade. And if you had to go somewhere without mom or dad, you could bring the family flip phone. But this is when I really started to have an issue with the technology in America. The flip phone was designed to fail. It never worked. And so they'd get a text message 3 days later, or the phone call wouldn't go through. And so it was like, you didn't really have a choice, because I couldn't find a functioning piece of technology. And so they did get phones in the middle of their 7th grade year. And they were on lockdown. And I just took the boys' screen time limits off their phone when they graduated last week. They seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, you're gonna love it when they're at college, so they can FaceTime you and.
Oh, absolutely. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, some of the technology, my parents can stream a basketball game from Florida. I mean, it's fabulous. There are some great things, and the amount of FaceTime when my parents are away for a long period of time, or it's great. Or, hey, show me where you are right now. It's nice with the FaceTime too. But yeah, we've no social media until they were sophomores. And so my girls don't have any of that right now either. And so you do the best you can. I mean, I'm no fool. I'm sure my children could probably find ways around the things we've tried to set up on here, but,
every time I'm at home and if I can't figure out how to do something, I go to my kids.
Sure.
Hey, how do you do this? How do you boom, 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 boom.
I go to YouTube first, just out of pride, but that's a me issue.
What advice would you give a new teacher? New teacher.
Yeah. I always say that, give yourself some grace. If you're trying your hardest every night, and if you're asking questions when you don't know, every day is not going to be great. And so you have to give yourself some grace. This is it's a tough job. It's a wonderful job. It's a wonderful career. But those,
I can tell by that picture over there that it's a wonderful career. It
is. Yeah. And when things are going well, man, do you feel good? It's fantastic. It really is. But there are going to be hard days every year of your career. But in the beginning, if you don't know, ask somebody, try some stuff. And honestly, if you really want some honest feedback on how things are going, ask the kids. Whether that's through some surveys, or they can write you a note, what's working for you, what's not working for you. Use your resources, take your professional development, take it seriously. I think those are some of the best things that you can do. And you got to find yourself some teacher buddies. If you have some, I still have, my co-teacher, we still text on a routine basis. She's off sailing around the world because she's retired, but so I'm living vicariously through her. But, if you can find those good buddies that you can kind of grow up with, if you will, through teaching, they're going to make the bad days better, and they're going to make the good days great. And you've got someone to bounce ideas off of. And, I just think that will make your career enjoyable, because the kids will leave you, right? You can have the best class ever, but they're moving on to 4th grade next year.
And then they'll forget about you.
They won't. They don't. I'm telling you right now, I see the kids come through on the grad walk. They don't forget.
They don't. And I think this year, when I told it to our staff at the last day, these kids, when they came around like sixth grade, just, hey, can you sign my yearbook? And some had just a blank sheet of paper. Like they were so proud.
Yeah.
And it was neat to see. And I can only imagine senior year, like you said, when they do the grad walks. What are some initiatives that you've begun in Hilton, continued on, and maybe even some that you discontinued?
Okay, let me think here. So we started with some different leadership structure at the elementary level. So we moved from kind of content liaisons who were, the teacher leader for science, let's say, but for kindergarten all the way through sixth grade. So it was 7th grade levels they were responsible for. And we moved to a grade level leader structure. So it actually increased the number of teacher leaders that we had, but I think that particular system has allowed for some two-way communication, come back and forth between the classroom and the Office of Instruction. I think it's allowed us to, I hope, offer more relevant and timely resources and support, and start to make some of those changes. So that was, that's one thing that we've changed. We've been working on, this was kind of started with really great reading when I came, but that shift to incorporating the sciences of reading into reading instruction and really balancing the balanced literacy approach. We've been working on that. We'll have a new math program in a couple of years because our subscription is going to be going to expire in investigation. So we're working through that. We've added some systems to MTSS at the elementary level. And we do still worry about the middle school and high school folks. So we've been really working on anchoring into our grading practices and establishing a 7-12 grading philosophy and working towards some more consistency in our practices. So it's a little more predictable for students and really gets to grades being a reflection of what the student knows and can do in relation to the standards.
Okay.
So that's heavy work, and people have been working a lot on that this year. We just did an IB reauthorization, so that was something we've continued to take a look at our programs. But with all things, we're, with IB in particular, we're really looking at right sizing. So IB's been in the district, different programs, 15, 20 years. And if we implemented it in a certain way, maybe 15 years ago, is that still the right way? Could we look at that a different way? I think about our MYP summative assessments and, when people say, well, I don't like that summative assessment. I say, well, how would it better serve you and the kids? And what could we do? And, so looking through some ways to right size some of those things. We've started a program evaluation process. And so last year, English and art went through program evaluation, and we've got some different course offerings that will be coming down the pike for English moving forward, and potentially for art as well. And so we're starting to see some of those systems identify the areas that need some work, and then being able to set some action steps to that. So those are a few that come to mind off the top of my head.
The other day I was looking and I noticed that a lot of the valedictorians for the senior class and then even the IB diplomas, there's a heavy, overwhelming girls. There was girls mostly populated. Have you noticed in your career learning differences between boys and girls and the achievement that is arrived based on the different genders?
I can make a couple observations. So I will say one of the male IB diploma candidates was Andrew. So
I know.
I was very, very proud of him. I was very proud of him. But when you line up, your diploma candidates, you line up your valedictorians, you can see that. And I think some of what we talked about before with compliance versus engagement. I think that in my experience, oftentimes, especially in the younger grades, female students tend to be more inherently compliant. They can sit for longer periods of time, many of them, not all of them. And sometimes, I don't know if elementary school traditionally in America was set up for really busy boys. And so I think in the beginning, we start to identify with who's well-behaved, who got done first, and they're smartest. And students really start to internalize whether I'm a smart student or whether I'm not, or, and I think they develop those identities really, really early. And so I wonder about that. And I also think too, and I'm guilty of this as well with my daughters, really pushing them to be on equal footing with male counterparts. So if they want to go into a male dominated industry for a career or something, that they can keep right up. And so I think society wise, we've really, in a good way, really pushed girls to achieve and to set their goals high. And I think that's great. And I wonder if maybe that's what you see too. But I think a lot of it has to do with that perceived participation, compliance,
engagement. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Gives me a lot to think about too.
I could be all wrong too. Those are my observations.
You make a lot of sense. I mean, 25 years ago when I was doing my master's project, I did it on are we failing girls in education, because we focus so much on bad boy behavior or just, and good stuff. Good for me to think about. What would you tell a new family coming to Hilton that makes it attractive to live, learn as a community?
Yeah, I really think one of the things I really love about Hilton is it's a big enough district, but it's a small town feel. And so the first thing I would say to a family is get involved. Get into your children's buildings, go to the events. So even if your children are young, go to the homecoming parade, go to a football game, or take them to the musical, bring them to a drumline show. And it's really, you could have an entire social life just by what the district offers in extracurricular events and opportunities. And so I think the more you're involved, the more you get back from the district. I would, encourage them to partake in as many. We offer so many extracurricular activities and clubs, and to partake in that and to challenge themselves with courses. And even if you don't know if you're going to get the highest grade, we have so many different interesting, dual credit opportunities or elective opportunities, that students could be taking advantage of. And so I'd say, you open up the program of studies, and there's such a wide variety of classes that you could take. And, at the elementary level, there's so many opportunities for families to get involved. Over at Village, you have, your STEM night, and you have your, the fall family fun, but I don't know what the name of it is off the top of my head, getting involved in those types of things. That's what Hilton's all about. It's really about the whole place is a home. It's not just going to school.
Apple Fest is fun too.
Yes, you're right.
Cadet intentional values. It's been a 5-year strategic plan. Integrity. How is that shown from your office?
So, this is something that is a strongly held personal conviction as well. And that if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it. Here's a great example. If I'm not really looking for feedback on something and I already know what we're going to do, I don't ask for feedback. And if I ask for feedback, it's because I really want to consider different perspectives and different ways that it might impact different constituents. So I think it's really a matter of, if you say you're going to do it, you need to do it. If you make a mistake, apologize for it, own up to it. And I think just always knowing that everything you're doing is with good intention, then, that's what you need to display. And I think the other piece too, and this is a fun part about being an administrator who lives in the community, is you should really walk around like you think you're being filmed at all times. And so if you don't want everyone to know you're saying it, probably shouldn't say it. And to me, that's the epitome of integrity. Now, I'm still working on that, right? Because I still get frustrated from time to time. And so I think that's something that if you really want to live with integrity, just pretend you're being filmed at all times.
Define welcoming and affirming, and how you've seen that in play in our district.
So if we're truly living up to that intentional value, people are happy to come through our doors. They're not nervous about who they're going to meet on the other side of the table during a meeting, or they're not worried about coming into the district because they don't know how they're going to be received. And so I think it's a lot of greet people with a smile. So this I learned at St. Bonaventure. At Bonaventure, you never walk past someone without acknowledging their presence. It's always a hello. So if I'm in a hallway and if you're a kindergartner, or if you're a 12th grader, or if you're a staff member or a student, I'm going to say, hi, good morning, hello. No matter how awkward it gets, right? Because I was looking at my phone or I was doing something different. But I think just the more we do that, the more we smile at one another, the more we ask before assume, those are all ways that we can be welcoming and affirming. And I see that, like I said, that's what drew me to the district, was the way that staff interacts with their students and how much they really want to see them succeed. And so I think that, we're always working on doing that. And what we need to be mindful of is, are we doing that for everybody? everybody in our building feel that way, and so we do that strategic plan survey every year, and a section of that is on belonging, and it really helps to track how the percentage of students in your building that feel like they matter, that they have an adult that's connected to them. Sources of Strength does a great job with that up at the high school. So I think those are some ways that we're trying to make those efforts, because we know not everybody loves to come to school here. That's our goal. That's what we want, is everyone to love to come here. So really being mindful of who doesn't feel that way yet. I think that's the work we have ahead of us.
People first.
Okay, this one gets misinterpreted sometimes. So people first doesn't mean you always get what you want, right? But it means that every decision we make considers people as human beings first. And so when you have an interaction with somebody and it doesn't go great, like maybe they're having a tough day. And so instead of thinking about the behavior or the action the person had, let me think about them as a person first. Let me ask, are you all right? Hey, Mike, you all right today? If you say something, and this has never happened for the record, but if Mike said something curt to me, if you said something curt or rude or whatever, and I might say, instead of coming back at you, I might say, you all right today? That's people first.
Okay.
I'm going to think about you as a human first, and then we're going to move to business. Or think about, a great example is our music department has done a really nice job of thinking about when we host concerts, what is that experience like for the grandparent that comes into our building? Did we have enough parking? Did we put signs up so people knew that we were going to open the doors at 6:30? And really thinking about what is that experience like for individuals that come into the district? That's people first. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I love the people first part, because I've made, like, if you make a crack at somebody, asking them, "Hey, you okay?" I really like that. And then thinking of grandparents and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, lifelong learning.
Well, hopefully this is what everybody's thinking about every day.
What do you, if you have that kid that, they don't like coming to school, and you want to drive and motivate him or her into becoming a lifelong learner that respects that?
Yeah. So you got to figure out what they care about. And so if I want them to be able to write, an expository essay, and I really want them to write about, I don't know, pollution, but they're really into cars, then I'm letting that child write about cars.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm really focused on the skills that they need to accomplish in that expository writing, then I need to let go of my control of what I thought the topic should be. I think when you invest in students, no, right, wrong, or indifferent, students will work for teachers that they like. If I think Mr. Heise cares about me, I'm going to work for Mr. Heise, because I don't want to let him down. Mm-hmm. Because nobody comes into school and says, I really want to be bad at this today. Mm-hmm. I want to do a terrible job today. I want everyone to be mad at me when I leave here. Now, their behavior might make it look like that's the case, but nobody gets up in the morning and says, I really want to fail today.
Right.
Nobody does.
Right. And
sometimes for students where school's really hard, quite frankly, I don't water ski. Want to know why? It's hard. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to do it. And I'm going to fall and get hurt a whole bunch of times. So as an adult, I have the luxury of just saying, I'm not going to water ski.
But a kid.
When you're 7, you have to come to school every day, mm-hmm. whether you like it or whether you're good at it or not. And I think we need to remember that sometimes, and try to find those ways to connect with the student, because students will work for teachers that they know care about them. They really will. And I had the privilege of working in alternative high school as a teacher, and then also as an assistant principal. And when I worked in the alternative high school, there was just a team of amazing people, and the kids, they're like, I hate school, but I like Mr. So-and-so. And so I do his work, because I don't want him to be disappointed in me. Now, do I wish they really loved the War of 1812 and wanted to learn more about it? I do. But if that becomes a byproduct of, I learned about it because I did it for this teacher, then that's okay as a means to an end. So I think that's really the best thing we can do, is just find a way to connect. And sometimes it's hard. But when I really couldn't connect with the student, I would figure out who their favorite teacher was. And I would say, how come Johnny likes you so much? He doesn't like me at all.
Smart.
What do you do? And it's the beauty of being in the high school where I was, because that student had 6 or 7 different teachers. Mm-hmm. So if I knew he hated coming to my class, I can go talk to the math teacher, because he talks about that teacher all the time. And, what do you do? How do you connect? And then you might learn something that helps you make that connection. Or even the student saying, you cared enough to go ask the math teacher mm-hmm. about me. Sometimes that's enough too.
What are 3 characteristics of a strong leader? Or 3 words, or however you want to put it.
Collaborative. Empathetic. And I don't know what the adjective is for having integrity, but that would be my third.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Have you ever struggled with any of those, or?
Every day.
Every day?
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes I have to remind myself to be empathetic, right? Because again, I get in the business mode, like let's get things done, let's get to our to-do list, you know. And sometimes I have to come back and say, "Whoa, hang on, did you say good morning first?" So I work at that a lot. It's just, I don't know, it's my default setting is just to get right to business. So that's something that I'm always working with. I think the challenge of being collaborative is getting people to believe that you truly want them to be part of the solution. And then having integrity. I mean, I think we're faced with 100 moral decisions, you know, every day. And so sometimes having integrity is the harder decision, but it's always the right thing. And as long as you act with integrity, you can sleep at night. That's what I've learned. And I really like to sleep because that's my only other speed.
That's your zero. We're coming to the end, but talk to me a little bit about your family, your husband, and your 4 kids.
Yeah. So my husband and I just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary at the end of June. Thank you. Probably more congrats to him than it is to me. I don't think it's easy to be married to me. And we're both Greece natives. He actually went to school in Spencerport, but then he went away to a prep school to play hockey. And we met right after I graduated from college. And because he was a hockey player, he didn't go to college till he was 21. So he was still at Hamilton. Okay. Even though he was older. Only 4 years at college, and you know, but they go to college a little later sometimes when they've played the juniors route and all that stuff. So we grew up only like 2 miles away from each other. And we met, my dad made me go on a date with him. And so the rest is history. We found out we were having twins when we got pregnant for the boys. And they have been like, every day of their life, they have been a sense of joy and excitement, and they have a lot of energy, and they're great people. They're fraternal twins, and like totally opposite from one another.
How so?
Oh,
because I'm a fraternal twin. So
that's right. I forgot about that. So I think, you know, where one is really drawn to intellectual things, and he owned more atlases as a child than any one person should ever have. And wanted them from like pre-Cold War and post-Cold War because they were different atlases. Where the other one is so good with people. Okay. Like he just reads people, and he's got a sense of humor and a wit about him. And, you know, and it's just,
it's a great mix.
I always say I had like the perfect child, and then just kind of split in half, and this one got these traits and that one got those traits. But that's what makes everything so, you know, so exciting. They have a lot of similar interests. You know, they're both hockey players. They're both
golf big in your family too.
Yeah. Golf is big. Yes. Andrew, moved over to tennis in his later years. So he really took to tennis junior and senior year. Cause he doesn't like to golf in the cold rain, which is all we have here in the spring. So I don't blame him. He plays recreationally. He's a pretty good stick. Okay. And then, our other oldest son is a golfer. He's going to go play golf at Mercyhurst University. That was a big dream of his, to play D1 golf. And our girls, who are going to be 8th graders, they're identical twins. Oh. And they are super similar people. And they're both competitive golfers too. Okay. They got to play on the very first ever Hilton's girls golf team here. Yeah.
One of them went to States, didn't they?
She did. And the other only missed being an alternate by a stroke. So, yeah.
Reese and Reagan?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So Barrett, he's going to Mercyhurst, right?
He's going to Mercyhurst.
And then Andrew's going to...
He's going to Colgate.
And what are the boys going to study?
Andrew's going to study mathematical economics with the hopes to get an MBA in finance eventually. He's going to play club hockey and tennis at Colgate, and probably every other intramural sport they have. And Barrett's going to study business.
Okay. And play golf.
Maybe in the other order if you ask him, but yeah.
What was it like? I mean, earlier on you were like, it was great, you know, being an administrator in the community, and I could see a lot of their friends. How did they react when mom was now an administrator in the district?
So, they both wanted me to work here in the worst way. It was really pretty sweet.
All 4 of them, or just the boys?
No, all 4 of them. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if they thought it was going to get them out of detentions or something. I don't know. But on my way out the door to my final interview with Dr. Kasorik, one of them looked at me and said, "Don't mess this up." Okay, I won't. Right. So yeah, it's been great. And like, I see them in the hallway and I get hugs, from them, which is a great, I mean, that's such a luxury in the middle of your workday, just to run into one of your kids and,
Sure.
and have a warm reception. Right. Maybe they've dodged me, but if they have, I haven't seen it. So, yeah, so it's been great.
What do you want as your future as an educator? Like where you're at?
Yeah, to me, this was
Okay.
the ultimate goal. It wasn't the path I thought I was going to take. I really thought I would stay in building leadership longer. I did not expect to be away from kids that long, but this was my ultimate goal, and I feel like, you know, we have a lot of work to do, and we're doing great things right now. So I'm excited, and then some of the things we're working on, they're going to take years. And so that's good because I've got a bunch more to go. So.
Now these are some, I think, softball questions to end up with. What is your favorite food?
Oh my gosh, I like so much food.
Some, 2 or 3 if you
Okay,
want.
my ultimate favorite food would be scallops.
Scallops? Are you a cook yourself?
Yes.
Or no? Okay. And what's your best dish that you can make?
Oh, it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
So let's see. Now, like weeknight meal, spicy rigatoni.
Okay.
Okay. My sauce and meatballs are pretty good. Yeah. Trying to think what else do the kids really like. I only ever get a 75% approval rating. And if 3 of the 4 children like it, it goes on the menu. But yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows.
Okay.
Yeah. I eat plant-based.
Okay.
So I cook like for myself, and then I cook for the family. And so I cook all the time. I'm always making food because I can't miss a meal.
What is or was your favorite movie?
Oh, A League of Their Own.
Oh, the baseball movie? Now, the theme, what makes it so special for you with that movie?
Well, it's based, I mean, I was a softball player, so, you know, there's that connection there. It's so fun. There's so many great one-liners in
What was
that
it? Is
movie.
Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell in that?
Oh, yeah. And then
Tom
Gina
Hanks.
Davis. And I mean, Tom Hanks is, Jimmy Dugan is one of his, he's great. He's a mess, but he's great. So yeah, I love, it's just the game and the excitement of the game, and the historical element of it, and it's funny, and and I remember watching it when we were making our sectional run when I was a kid. Remember, we all got together as a team, we watched it, so it has like kind of those memories too.
In high school, did you play other sports besides softball?
I played tennis. Yep.
Okay.
In the fall, and I played basketball when I was younger. I played through JV, and then by that point I was pitching pretty heavily, so I cut it down to 2.
Did you pitch at Bonaventure?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to try to do this. Is that how you do the Wolves at Bonaventure, whatever?
Do you know, I'm not sure. We weren't really doing hand signals back in the late 90s.
Mallory always makes fun of me, but what's your favorite, well, when you did watch TV, I don't even know if you have time to. Do you have a TV or a binge show that you get into?
I'm not a great TV watcher. I only watch TV with other people for the most part. But right now we're watching Stick. Okay. It's on Apple TV. It's basically like a Ted Lasso approach to golf. And so it's Owen Wilson. And so that's what we're watching right now. I'm actually waiting for the next episode, which I've never been on time with the show. I've always been like weeks and weeks behind. But we're actually up to date with this one.
All right. Favorite quote?
Probably do or do not. There is no try. And I think it tortured me my junior year. We had to write an essay on that quote, and I don't think I really understood it at the time. And I want to say it's from a Star Wars character. Who's the little guy with the green in the ears? Yes, thank you. I think that's who the quote is from.
I like it. Favorite book?
Oh, I don't know if I can narrow it down to one.
You can name 3. I don't care. Or genre of book. I don't care.
You just ask an English teacher what their favorite book is. I mean, there's just
English
so
teacher
many.
should have.
I really
know,
need to
but
think about this.
There should
one.
be no problem. You can spit out about 10 of them, but
so I would say my favorite genre is realistic fiction. And I read a lot of nonfiction too.
Okay.
So I mean, right now my favorite book is The Anxious Generation.
I'm gonna look that up, and I can listen to that on tape.
You can, yeah, I got it on
I get up early
Audible or whatever.
All right. What's your favorite musical genre or musical group? What's on your Spotify?
It's a little bit eclectic. I don't have great taste in music, so I'm not like a music connoisseur. So I'll start by saying that I listen to a lot of modern country.
Yep.
I definitely throw on some 80s pop, 90s pop mixes in the car. A lot of times some 90s hip hop if my kids aren't around, relive my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your last concert that you went to?
I'm not a big concert goer. I think I went to Blake Shelton.
Okay.
But I'm going back like 10 years, maybe.
My last one
it's expensive.
No. I went to Toby Keith, obviously, when he was
alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep. That's supposed to be a good show.
Country?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to do when you relax? When you're not at 0, but you're at like 50? Not from 150.
Yeah. I don't sit still well.
Yeah.
But I really like to cook and I like to bake.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like to play golf, which I don't get to do myself. I caddy a lot, but I don't get to golf a lot myself, but I do like to golf. I don't know if it's relaxing because I'm not any good. So it's a little frustrating, but I do enjoy it. Yeah. Or I like to watch my kids do whatever sport they're playing or thing. I like watching them.
Do you advise them when they're playing or you just carry the bag?
So I'm good for cleaning the clubs. I'm good at getting the distance on the rangefinder. And I do more of the psychological and snacking, like, okay, your blood sugar's low. You need to have some snacks. We need to get some water. I'm good at that sort of stuff. I can read a putt from here to there, but other than that, I do things like, you got 91 yards to the center of the green uphill. What would you like? And then I take the club.
All right. Last question. If you could go to dinner with anyone from history, who would it be and why?
Can I pick 2 people?
Yeah.
I would go to dinner with my grandparents.
Okay.
They've been gone for, a long time, since my boys were 3. So they loved their grandchildren and they loved sports, and they would have been at every single hockey game, tennis match, golf. I mean, my grandfather was a huge golfer. I would love a couple hours of dinner with them to share all the stuff about their great grandchildren, because they would have really, really relished in this. Yeah.
They're looking down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But I want to have the conversation with them about it. Yeah. That's how I go to dinner with.
Well, Kristen, thank you very much for joining me on the Big H podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I learned a lot about you. I've even learned a lot to think about in my career moving on. Folks, you can follow me on X at Michael Heise 17. You can join me on Spotify, Rumble, or Apple Podcasts on the Big H podcast. This has been Powwow with Paolini. Thank you to the audience. Kristen.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Mike. It was great.
The Big H podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find